Miss White. I call Jamie Greene to be followed by Fulton McGregor, who will get to speak if he presses the request to speak button, and he'll also be the last speaker in the open debate. Mr Greene.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. There's very little time available today. I think we're all sort of rushing through our speeches to get as much in as we can. So I'll try and add some further thoughts to it. I think what's clear today, I found that last speech very interesting, that the reasons for human trafficking are so wide and varied. You know, we know that forced labour, sex workers, child exploitation and domestic servitude are the main ones, but it can manifest itself in a whole different variety of ways, in people coming to this country thinking they're getting a better life and ending up encapsulated in trafficking circumstances. I guess I shouldn't really be surprised that there are recorded figures of trafficking in Scotland, but I am surprised, and indeed I'm quite shocked. It's a sort of practice you never really believe sits on your own doorstep. But experts believe that the official figures really underestimate the number of victims each year. The official figures are around 150, but many in the third sector believe it could be in the thousands. And I think part of that is that the image that we have of what a modern slave might be doesn't always really fit the stereotype. You know, we talked a little bit about some of the TV documentaries that have covered this. I recall one from, I think it was last year on BBC Three, about the story of a Polish immigrant who'd come to the UK, you know, a burly 6-foot guy who came here to do labour work, was forced into agricultural work against his will. And the way he was forced is that they'd taken away his passport, he was given limited access to money, given confined accommodation that he couldn't escape from, but moreover was actually beaten up by the gangmasters that controlled this group of people. So, given... I shall.
John Finney.
Thank you, President Officer. I'm grateful for the member taking an intervention on that point. I think he makes a very valid point about employment. Would the member agree with me that it's very important employers robustly scrutinise the source of their employees?
Jamie Greene.
I do agree. I think, especially in those fields of labour, very manual work, often cash in hand type work, it is even more important that employers should be looking at where their staff are coming from, especially if they're using an agency. They might think they're doing the right thing by using a legitimate agency, but actually behind that there may be unscrupulous work going on. So couldn't agree more. I think given that fear and control, and bearing in mind that fear is a way of controlling people, how do we encourage more victims to come forward? And that's one of the things I think we haven't really touched on as much as we could have today. How do we encourage victims to come and seek help when they're living in such unique circumstances of danger? I think it's worth noting also that the serious organised crime strategy shows that human exploitation is not just confined to big cities. It happens in small towns and villages and even in rural economies as well. Rural communities. It's happening under our nose. So how aware of this are we? Or do we choose to close our eyes to what is going around us as a society? I welcome the strategy. I think it's widely supported. It focuses on the victims, but also it really touches on how we identify perpetrators and disrupt their working practice. There's very little to disagree with in the strategy, to be honest. And I think the focus on victims is important. The long-term impact of being a victim of this sort is quite inconceivable, but it is really important they overcome that if they are to reintegrate into society. As is always the case with these strategies, measurement and monitoring is the key to its success. And I think the importance is on the Scottish Government and this Parliament to regularly review this strategy and its progress. The title of this debate is Making Scotland a Hostile Place for Traffickers. And I couldn't agree more. The message from this place should go out, and it should be an unequivocal and unapologetic message to human traffickers that they are simply not welcome here, and we will not tolerate your activity. The Human Trafficking and Exploitation Act introduced a number of new powers to prevent and punish trafficking, including the option of life imprisonment for those who are prosecuted, and I believe we should not shy away from using these powers to their full extent. As it stands, trafficking is still an unacceptable level for all of us in Scotland and across the UK. Collaboration will be key. Collaboration across governments, across police forces, across enforcement and border agencies, and more importantly, as we saw today, collaboration across the political divide will make this a success. Thank you.